Folks, welcome into the roundtable for December 27th, Wednesday. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to wherever you're celebrating the holiday season with your friends and family. Alongside Donnie Rightside, Jeff Nadeau, Ian Cameron. My name is Drew Martin. We're going to be hitting on some NFL betting, some college football betting, some Canadian sports, also throwing in some college basketball. Let's go right around the horn. Welcome the crew in. He's big man on campus. Find him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. Jeff, welcome into the roundtable. How you doing today, buddy?
Doing good, Drew. Thanks for having me. Always good to be on the roundtable. Merry Christmas to everyone out there, and looking forward to chatting about some sports today.
We're excited to hear your opinion on a lot of things, especially college basketball. One of the best minds in the betting business in college basketball. His partner in crime on the right side of campus, Donnie Rightside. Find him on Twitter at RightSideVP. Donnie, welcome in.
Week 17 heading into the NFL. Know what you're looking at this weekend, folks. If you can't read the tea leaves, you're not going to be able to pay your mortgage or your rent, and you might lose your wife or your girlfriend. Pay close attention this weekend. Playoffs on deck should be a lot of fun. The NFC playoff picture is as good as it's ever been. Stacked, stacked, stacked. You could take a nap in the AFC next week on Wild Card Weekend, but stay tuned to the NFC. Good to be on the roundtable. A lot of fun here. Let's have some fun on the show.
Yeah, some NFL to start us off. Good NFL betting breakdown to come. Ian Cameron, find him on Twitter at Babano. Ian, welcome in, buddy.
Yeah, this Wednesday morning's hitting me like a ton of bricks. I've gone since Saturday prior to this morning without a show, and now I'm doing two shows and back-to-back in 2 hours. So here we go. But I'm excited. I always love the roundtable. Good people, great discussion. Let's roll.
Donnie, let's start it off with you, man. Getting right into the NFL. You bring up Week 17 scenarios. Any maybe bet on fade teams you want to do, or just jump right into playoff scenarios here in the last week?
Yeah, I mean, we could do a generalization of the NFL coming up this week. What you want to look at is every coach is going to say this, Drew. You played football, right? And they're going to say, early in the week, yeah, we're going to play our starters. And then management gets involved. Then the team gets involved. Then motivation gets involved. Then by Friday, you know what? Maybe we're only going to play a drive out there. And then the game comes underway. Maybe we're not going to play anybody in this football game. But in the NFL, it's not like college football, folks. You don't have 95 or 100 guys where you can run your fourth stringers out there. Starters are going to have to play, but key starters are not going to play this weekend. Doesn't matter what your coach is telling you. If there's no motivation on the line, I'm looking right at you, Jacksonville Jaguars. There's no reason to play your big guns out on the field. And even if you do, maybe you run them out there for a couple plays. Ooh, man, got a couple first downs. We feel good. Pull them right off the field. Get ready for the playoffs. Read those tea leaves out there, folks.
So breaking it down as far as maybe motivation, which you got to do in a lot of sports, especially college football this time of year in bowl season. But Jeff or Ian, you guys want to jump in with anything you're looking for in the last week of the NFL season?
Well, look, I would agree with Donnie. I mean, you definitely got to make sure you're understanding the scenarios and what's going on. But look, I think there are certain teams that I think need to play a little bit. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles are a prime example. You have a quarterback that you really don't know what you have there. I mean, you have a backup or whatever, but you have a guy that hasn't played well in his last game, and you need to get him work, frankly. Again, I also don't know that some of these teams, like Donnie said, has the depth to go 3 quarters with a backup. I mean, like he mentioned, there aren't 90 players in these teams, but yeah, I mean, you got to do your homework. If you're not doing your homework, in this week, you probably want to find something else to do. But I mentioned it. All I'm looking for this week is a Pittsburgh Steeler win, and I can cash my ticket and be happy. Other than that, it's a throwaway week for me. Not every week's usually a throwaway week in the NFL for me. But I know Donnie. I'll look forward to his analysis to see what teams are going to care and what teams aren't. But you got to do your homework, especially in the NFL Week 17.
Yeah, there's no
And
question.
Ian, is it a throwaway week for you?
It's not a throwaway week. There's sometimes some really good betting opportunities out there in Week 17. But my biggest advice, and I've said this on podcasts I've done in Week 17 before in the past, if you've had good success this NFL football season, you're up several units, you're having a good year, please, I'm begging you, for the love of God, do not blow your entire bankroll on Week 17. Okay, just don't do that. Don't bet 5, 6, 7, 8 games Unless you shouldn't do that anyway every week, but especially in week 17, it's a minefield out there. You've got to get a good sense of what coaches are thinking, what coaches are saying, what's going to be happening with starters in or out. We're already seeing Sean McVay of the LA Rams talking about no starters involved in that game. I was able to get a nice early good line on San Francisco in that game. It's already down now. I got +4. It's down to 2.5 now, pretty much across the board with the 49ers. Again, complete reaction to the fact that they're going to be resting. The Rams are going to be resting their starters. Why not? I mean, it's a situation where, they're going to have to play next week in the wild card round. Just, don't get anybody killed here in a week 17, meaningless, pretty much regular season finale. And it's the right call for Sean McVay. And these teams that are out of the playoffs, you've really got, if you're going to get involved in these games with teams that are completely out of it, facing each other, where's the motivation going to be for the Giants? You saw just them completely mail it in against the Washington Redskins. They had that hump up effort inside the division. Don't forget, they played the Eagles and Cowboys before that. Division rivals. You get a little spark. You get a little pep in your step going to the practice field, playing those two teams. Not so much playing Arizona on the road when you're already way out of it. We saw them just flat as a pancake, the Giants, in that game against Zona. Sorry to our friend Lauren Sturgio. I know that's frustrated. That whole team's frustrating him right now. But nevertheless, Giants, a team I'd be worried about. You look at Houston. I mean, gosh, that was just feeble for them on Christmas Day against the Pittsburgh Steelers. What's left in their tank right now? They're not giving you much effort. They're not giving you much energy right now. I'd be concerned about the Texans right now. A team that I was concerned about, the Cincinnati Bengals. They actually showed me something last week against Detroit. Put the final nail in the Lions' playoff coffin. Showed up for their boy Marvin. He was a friend of mine, a friend of the team, a friend of the players, apparently, because guess what? They played for him. They showed up. There was good effort, good intensity on Cincinnati's part, beating Detroit. Now you go on the road. You face Baltimore. Are you going to win the football game? Probably not. Likely not. But it's a division rival. You don't like them. You could do a little bit of a blow, a little bit of a gut punch to their playoff hopes if you can go in there and shock them. Cincinnati's one of those teams I don't think is laying down this week. Against the Baltimore Ravens. Will they have another home run effort and be able to fire back after the final home win for Marvin last week? We'll see. But I think a division rival and a chance maybe to land a potential blow to their playoff hopes is something that I think might excite the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to do digging throughout the week. I want to see if this team's even mildly interested. And if they are, they could be a little bit of a threat for Baltimore. I'll tell you what, Baltimore in this price range, we saw it against the Colts last week. That's not a team I trust in this 10-point range. I'm sorry. As a favorite, no way, no how. I mean, this is a team that grinds and grits their way to victories. They don't rarely dominate. So we'll see what Cincinnati can bring to the party in that game this Sunday.
All right, guys, I'm looking at the chat box right now. We got Lauren, Nasty, Vitalis, Jason, Adam. What's up, guys? Feel free to chime in anything you want to hear. If you're liking the show, any changes you want us to go towards. But also seeing Donnie Rightside here. One of the best betting weeks of the year, NFL, is week 17. Donnie, explain yourself.
Very rarely in the NFL. The NFL is week to week. Jeff and I talk about it all the time. What you see the week before is usually not going to placate the very next week. But this is one of the gifts that keeps on giving. The NFL actually helps you in gambling for this week, where they stagger every single game, where if you need to win this game, they're going to match you up at the same time slot as the other team that needs to win. So now you know true motivation going in this game. Imagine putting out a play on Friday, and then by Sunday at 4 o'clock, somebody already won at 1 o'clock, which wraps up your play, and that line goes from 1 to 9 because the team no longer is going to play any of their starters or their key ingredients. The NFL helps you out where if you know what you're looking at early in the week, you can jump some of these lines. Fantastic one brought up by Ian. I already had it last night. +4, same thing with Ian on the San Francisco 49ers. I'll say it right now because the line is down to -1. Let's take a look from an outside factor if you're the Rams, right? You're not going to really improve your status whatsoever heading into this weekend. You already won the division, which means you're going to have a home playoff game. So let me get this straight. If you're the Rams, Todd Gurley is so important to your team. Jared Goff is so important to your team. Aaron Donald is so important to your team. You're going to tell me they're going to go out and throw the ball to Gurley for 10 targets and then run him 25 times in this football game? Let's just say if Gurley does play as well, comes in, early in the football game, gets a couple carries, 3 carries for 9 yards. He's out of the football game. Jared Goff's going to go back, maybe complete a slant or two, still have that work week involved, getting in a game type environment. He's out. Good luck if you want to bet some of these teams are going to have backups in. Jeff brings up a really good point with the Philadelphia Eagles, which is what some people are going to struggle with after this week. Doug Peterson's going to say all week, boy, we really got to get the offensive clicking. Well, let's get this straight. The Eagles' only shot to get to the Super Bowl is with a healthy team now. If you're looking at let's just say Alshon Jeffrey goes out on the field and you want to work in Nick Foles in this game. You're going to throw an out ball. Oh, no. High ankle sprain to Alshon Jeffrey in this football game. What did you gain? They're working in practice for months and months and months together. If anybody's going to be out there for the Philadelphia Eagles, it's going to be a feel-good mission. And here's what I mean by that. Let's just say the opening kickoff, the Eagles get the ball. Nick Foles is going to come out for starting quarterback. Maybe he does. I actually think he might. And they go down the field, 5 plays, 32 yards, and kick a field goal. Do you know where Nick Foles is going to go out? Oh, man, we had a nice little run there. He's coming right out of the football game. Don't listen to what these coaches are telling you because you can get yourself fired in this week. Let's just say if you're Doug Peterson and you run Nick Foles out there and you want to play him all 4 quarters or 3.5 quarters with some backups on your offensive line. Oh my goodness, Nick Foles is out for the playoffs. Congrats, coach. You got the number 1 seed with Nate Sudfeld going to lead you to the Super Bowl here. You can't get guys injured this weekend. It's the single most important thing. GMs, coaches get fired over making dumb decisions here. Same thing with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Are you going to run Leonard Fournette 25 times in this football game? That means nothing for your team out there. And let's just say you go hard and you're the Jacksonville Jaguars. You just got beat by Jimmy G. You're going to play Tennessee this weekend. You play all of your starters this week, and Tennessee beats you. You know who you play next week, and you're exhausted? The Tennessee Titans once again. Rest up this week if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, which I believe they will. Maybe they'll give their starters maybe a quarter, maybe even 2 quarters. But the backups will be in the 3rd and 4th quarter because it means nothing. The only thing you can do to your football team this week is hurt your football team. Stay away from the games out there that you're looking at, no implications. Washington and New York Giants. You should not be betting that football game. Nobody gives a shit about that football game. Head coaches, defensive coordinators, front office people, they just want a better draft pick in that game. Stay away from games that have 0 implications out there.
If you're the Eagles, you can't sit Nick Foles for 2 weeks straight. I just don't think you could do that, especially in your
you play him a quarter. You play him a half. You play him the half of the first quarter. You say, you know what? Drive down, get a scoring drive. Let's feel good. Because if you play Nick Foles in this game, Jeff, you better play all 11 starters on offense. Because what are you going to do if Brandon Brooks, Jason Kelsey, and Lane Johnson are on the bench and he's got Vitae and, a bunch of these bum backups that they're going to have out there? You can't really. He's already a slug. You saw him get hurt last week. He got hurt last week.
You can get injured in practice, though.
Yeah, but if you play your starting quarterback this week when you don't need to, and let's just say Big Ben goes out. Well, Big Ben the Eagles are a perfect case in point because they have nothing to gain in this game. If you play Nick Foles, who's been in the NFL 6-7 years, because he needs to play in this week in order for you to win, that you already lost. For real. And what happens if Nick Foles plays the whole first half and looks like shit in this football game? Now you send panic through everything. If you play Foles in this game, you get him in there, get him 4 for 5 on the first drive for a field goal, you pull him and everybody feels good. Imagine if the Eagles said, we're not going to rest anybody, and Dallas comes in here and thumps you right before you go into the playoffs. It's a wrap for team morale.
Any follow-up, Big Man?
Well, no, I just don't think I don't think they're in the physical position to rest everyone. You can't start. What are you
can't. No, you can't. Right, you're right. You can't. No, you can't rest everybody. But the thing is, if your quarterback is in the game, you can't have backup wide receivers and backup linemen and backup running backs who can't pick up the blitz. He's your most important jewel heading into the playoffs. Whether he's good or not, you have to play everybody if you play your starting quarterback. You can't just run him out there with backups out there. You end up getting him killed.
I guess Donnie thinks that just because you're in a game, you're going to get injured. Donnie, I don't know.
No, it has nothing. You're missing the whole point. You can get injured if you have backups out there. Let's just say you have Lane Johnson. He doesn't even suit up for this game. You want Nick Foles dropping back 25 to 30 times in this game?
Of course I don't. But of course
if I was a coach in the Eagles' situation, what I would do, and I mentioned this in the chat, I've got to buy to the divisional round. I would find a way to get my starters in there for a quarter. Something. I got to get them some kind of playing time.
I agree.
And that could become too much rust.
Yep, you're right, Ian.
Yep.
Game 3 of the preseason is always the best one I love. We're going to play the starters an entire half. How many times you see that starting group go out there, go right down the field, punch it in for a touchdown? They don't see the field the rest of the night because it's about vibes. It's about clicking. It's about playing well. It's all about psyche. And again, if the Eagles were at the 2 position trying to still fight for the 1 position, hell yeah, you're going to play everybody, even though you already have a bye. When there's nothing to gain, you're only going to lose out there. That's all I'm saying.
No, and you bring up a good point, Donnie. I mean, there's a difference between even just jumping up a slot to have the 1 seed and having absolutely nothing to play for.
Exactly.
And what about the situation in Carolina, Atlanta? If we're just jumping into this one, we got Atlanta favored at home. The Falcons an under trender this year. One, would you bring in totals at all into that kind of philosophy and betting Week 17? And Donnie, do you want to start us off with Carolina, Atlanta? What you're looking at betting in this game?
It's a good one there. I mean, when you look at the case, I mean, Carolina's going to get some help back this week, right? You're going to get Charles Johnson back. You're going to get Davis back at linebacker. Getting a little bit healthier, but they did lose one of the wide receivers out there, local kid, Demir Bird, who was stepping into that role as that quick, like Russell Shepard, Curtis Samuel. Now he's going to be out for the playoffs, so yet another playmaker there. But motivation, you do want to look at, because if you look from the outset of Carolina, right, there's still technically some things to play for. Because if some things go right, which I don't think they're going to go this right, where if Minnesota would take a loss and New Orleans would take a loss, both to really bad football teams, where the other teams, New Orleans and Minnesota still have to win those games. If both of those things happen and Carolina ends up beating Atlanta, they jump all the way into the 2 seed with a bye week and win the division. I don't think that's going to happen. But when you look at this football game here, what does Atlanta need in this game? It's pretty simple. Atlanta's at home. You win this football game, you go to the playoffs. Now, if you look at Carolina Panthers on the opposite side, do they want to win the football game? I'm sure they probably do. But last week, after that tough, hard-fought game versus a bad Tampa Bay team where you snuck out of it with the win, and you take that deep breath and go, whew, man, thank God we're in the playoffs and we don't have to go into Atlanta next week with a must-win situation. There's a little bit of house money you're playing with the Carolina Panthers at this point, which I would lean Atlanta here strictly for motivational issues. If they win, they're in. Look at all the money there. Playoff games, heading in, guys getting bonus checks. You're in the playoffs. Coaches stick around again. Coaches get fired when you don't make the playoffs. When you make the playoffs, everybody wins. That's what's on the line for Atlanta. It's not necessarily on the line for the Carolina Panthers this week.
And Donnie, what about Carolina? This is a later game, so are they for sure going to have something to play for to break it down that
Yes,
route?
because Seattle and Arizona are going to play this same exact time. Because if Atlanta loses and Seattle wins, which Seattle's going to probably end up beating Arizona here. So if they win and they lose, Seattle's going to get that nod. Atlanta has no choice. Their only path to the playoffs is go out and beat the Carolina Panthers, and they don't have to sit back and wait. Seattle's not playing at 1 o'clock and they're playing at 4 o'clock. This is why the NFL, one of the few things they actually get right is to restructure Week 17 to make sure if there's any implications whatsoever, not a single team has an advantage out there.
Okay. No, great breakdown, man. Ian, any follow-up to what Donnie said about Atlanta and Carolina?
There's a lot of moving parts. I mean, Carolina, you're right. There's a lot of things that have to break their way for them to move up. They've clinched their playoff spot. Do they really want to go for how important is it, vital is it to move up? And you're right. They had to grind their way to a victory last week against Tampa Bay. That was not pretty. What concerns me about a Carolina perspective is how easy it was for Tampa Bay to move the ball up and down the field. They're damn lucky they stiffened in the red zone. They did play good red zone defense, but in between the 20s, Tampa Bay moved that ball up and down against that Carolina defense, start to finish in that game. That's a little bit of a red flag for me if I'm Ron Rivera and I'm looking at this defense going into the playoffs. I mean, it's been too easy at times especially throwing the ball against that secondary. That's where people have been able to pick them apart a little bit. The pass run defense up front, you're decent, Carolina. You're pretty stout, but you're a little bit susceptible and a little bit vulnerable in that secondary. Good news for Carolina for this particular football game is two key stalwarts on the defensive side of the football are likely to return. Thomas Davis, 1A, 1B top linebacker with Luke Kuechly, the great pair they form in that linebacking core. He was suspended for one game, helmet on helmet hit, but he's going to be back for this game against Atlanta. One of their premier pass rushers, Charles Johnson, he had been suspended for 4 games for a violation of the league's performance enhancement policy. He's going to be eligible to return here against Atlanta as well. So you're going to get key cogs back on the defensive side of the football. That's going to be key for Carolina. Tough, though, to gauge from a side perspective. Donnie's point is a valid one about this team off that kind of tough, hard-nosed, hard-fought win, clinching a spot. Do you exhale a little bit? Do you breathe out a little bit and maybe just relax now a little bit going into this game rather than go for the jugular and try to move up with a win? I'd lean Atlanta. I think under might even be a better play in this game, under the total. I think Carolina's defense is going to be a little bit better with some of those guys back, Davis and Johnson. On the flip side, I don't trust this Atlanta offense. I know it was in New Orleans last week, but you only score 13 points. You don't move the ball. I've not liked this play calling. It's been a big downgrade from Shanahan to Steve Sarkisian. We've seen that for some reason. This play calling and this elite level of offensive personnel that Atlanta has, it's not gelling. It's not jiving. And it hasn't jived for any consistent amount of time, an extended amount of time this season. So if I'm betting this game more than the side, I'd look under the total here.
And at Jeff Nadeau, any opinion on Panthers Dirty Birds?
Not particularly. I think these guys have answered most of the questions. Listen, I mean, you got to remember, when Cam Newton goes out, Derek Anderson comes in. That's obviously he's not one of the better backup quarterbacks in the league. So I was surprised I didn't hear that out of these two. I thought they'd bring up Derek Anderson. But is anyone running to the window to feel good about Derek Anderson coming into the game? I'm not. Yeah, Panthers need to win. I don't have much in this game. These guys pretty much mention what I would. I would agree with them totally.
And Donnie, just to ask about what Jeff just said, do we need to factor that in? Because Carolina, like you said earlier, does have something to play for. So would Derek Anderson be getting into the game, maybe a quick trigger on him?
Yeah, it's a tough one, and that's why in this game, it's for me it would be Atlanta or nothing, but there's too many question marks that are going to be coming out of Carolina. I know they're getting their players back, and maybe they want to say, well, let's gel a little bit. But again, you don't have a bye. If you have a bye week, you have a lot of leeway on what you can do. Saying, you know what, let's just say the Eagles did want to play all their starters. You're still going to get the bye week the next week, but I'm trying to read a little bit more into what the Eagles are actually going to do this weekend. But if you case in point with the Atlanta-Carolina game, this is the week, and Andy Reid's going to do it again with Kansas City as well. This is the week when you don't really have a bye. You can actually take yourself a bye when it doesn't matter. Now, does Carolina, if it was like one, let's just say they just needed to win the football game and, some other miraculous thing had to happen, you might play it, but you know as well as I do, we're all human beings. If you take it back to like I was in sales for a lot of my life before I did this. And the last day of the month, if you already hit your quota, you already have your paycheck in your pocket, you're taking 5-hour lunch breaks on the last day of the month. You don't care about what's going to happen that day because the new season flips over, which is the playoffs. Rest your players up. It's better for you. It's hard. Look at the statistics out there. The teams that don't get a bye week very rarely make the Super Bowl. Use this week as a rest week for your key components unless it really amps up. But you're right, Drew. The original point is Carolina still has something to play for, albeit an outside shot of moving up here.
Yeah, and also a great point by Jeff as well. If that is a pretty big drop off in quarterback talent there. But guys, anything else you guys want to throw out NFL betting wise for Week 17 or going into the playoffs before we move on to college football and college basketball? All good.
No, I'm
there?
just looking forward to this week. I'm just looking forward to the playoffs, and it should be the NFC playoffs is going to be awesome. The AFC look at the AFC first round. Tennessee at Jacksonville is probably what it's going to be, and Baltimore versus Kansas City. And you say, okay. Then you flip it over to the NFC, which what I think is going to happen. Panthers at the Rams and Atlanta at New Orleans. I mean, just put the NFC on and let's start eating out here.
That's going to be a good NFC playoffs. I agree. One last thing. It's a side I'm interested in, a little bit in Green Bay. We'll see as the week goes on, but I'm trying to make a case for that Packers side. The Lions, to me, I know everyone says they'll want to win one for Jim Caldwell. No, I mean, come on. I mean, the knocked out of the playoffs, disappointing, just a bad performance down the stretch, fourth quarter of that game against Cincinnati. Could not really make a play on either side of the ball. Matt Stafford couldn't make a play on offense. The defense couldn't get a stop on Andy Dalton and the Bengals when it mattered. I will say this about Green Bay. Ugly shutout loss, I know, last Saturday night at the frozen tundra in Lambeau to the Vikings, but that was just Brett Hundley in over his head against a elite level Minnesota Viking defense. I still thought Green Bay's own defense, the effort was there. You know, they gave it what they had and did everything they could to keep that team in the football game. There still looks to be an inkling of effort for Green Bay. And if they can even bring just an inkling of effort in this football game to the Motor City against Detroit, I think they can hang within a touchdown.
Hey, shout out to Chris Carter in the live chat box. You play to win the game. Great reference right there. Guys, we got college basketball coming up in just a second, college football to follow, bowl betting. If you're liking the content, please give us a thumbs up, the like button. We got 43 likes right now, setting the over-under at an even 100 by the end of the line filming. Not sure if we'll get there. It seems like a pretty good line. Donnie, what do you think? Over, under 100 likes?
Let's go over today. Come on. We had last couple weeks of football season. Let's hit the overs here, man.
Jeff, what do you got?
I'm going to agree. I'll go over.
And Ian, side note, over, under 4 dislikes.
Over, under 4 dislikes. I,
Over.
I'm going to be Mr. Yeah, I'm going to go over. I'm just going to be way too confident in the under
Pessimist,
to
yeah.
no. It's over's got to be the play there. As much as
All
I
right,
hate to
so
say
the
it.
over under on likes is at 100. We got 2 overs from Jeff and Donnie. Let's get there, boys. All right, Ian, right back at you, man. 60 seconds, Ian Cameron. Any I guess Canadian sports talks you want to throw out there to the roundtable listeners?
Yeah, just quickly on the NHL, which is back from the Christmas break tonight, back in action. The regular season resumes following the 3-day break. Just things you want to keep aware of. I try to handicap a night like tonight. I mentioned this on the Ice Guys show about the fact that, like an NFL bye week, if you're a team that's rolling and playing well going into the bye week in the NFL, I sometimes look for you to maybe struggle coming out of the bye week. If you're a team that's struggling going into the bye week, I sometimes look at the bye week as a good recharge and a refresher, and you come out playing well out of the bye week. Same thing in hockey. If you're rolling going into this Christmas break, I'm a little concerned if you can keep it going coming out of the break. Whereas if you're struggling going into the break, sometimes I look to bet on you in that first game coming out of the break, a little bit of a chance to recharge the batteries, get refocused. So just little elements like that you want to focus on. You want to look at coaching trends. First game out of the Christmas break, how have they done? How have they had their team prepared or maybe not prepared in the game following the break? Little things like that. It's a little bit of a different handicap looking at the NHL card this first game after the Christmas break than on a regular day. Just some little tips and advice that I can pass on to the viewers in terms of how you maybe attack the NHL card on a day like today.
All right, good stuff, Ian. And let's get right into college basketball with Jeff Nadeau. Follow him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. If you guys haven't seen the video of yesterday, me and Jeff do a kind of a betting buffet, BMOC bet buffet of college basketball bets. But because yesterday there was no games, we did more of like a philosophy of what you're looking to bet coming out of the short little break that college basketball does. I learned a lot from him. He knows college basketball betting as good as anybody. So, Jeff, where do you want to go here on the roundtable with college basketball betting?
Well, I think we should talk about it similar to the way Ian Cameron did. You have Christmas holiday ending here. You have teams coming off of the non-conference schedules heading into the conference schedules. You do have a couple teams that are still playing non-conference. You look at a good game tonight between Florida Gulf Coast and Rhode Island. But a lot of these teams are starting up that conference play. And look, I mean, that's something you need to obviously keep an eye on. But yeah, there are still some out of conference slates to keep your eye on as well. I mean, Chicago State. There are many people that are around the game that would agree that Chicago State might be the worst team in the country. Wisconsin laying a big number tonight, but this Wisconsin team beat Green Bay over the weekend pretty handily. I don't see any reason they don't continue that tonight. But overall, Drew, it's just getting into the conference play. Knowing what games conference and what's not. Just make sure you're doing little things, knowing the teams and personnel and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I would urge everyone take a look at the video we did yesterday. I think you could be educated a little bit on maybe some things that I'm looking for and what everyone's looking for here. Make sure you're doing your homework as always with any sport.
And Jeff, what about Villanova? What are they plus 800 to win the national title? You think there's any value on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Villanova, it pains me to say this, but I think they're the most complete team in the country. To me, they're a perfect basketball team. They do everything that I want them to do. They are well coached. They have a fantastic guard play. They have bigs that can handle their business. They're deep. They're one of the deeper teams in the country. And look, they're battle tested. They're not playing any true home games this year, which really gets them into the mindset of they can go and win anywhere. They're not playing at the regular stadium. They're playing down at the Wells Fargo Center, or they're going up to MSG to play. So I look at Villanova, and I've heard people mention they think the Big East is strong. I don't see it. There's some decent teams, Xavier, obviously, and Creighton, but I think they're one rung below Villanova. If I'm looking to bet on a team that I think is going to win right now, to me, it's Villanova or it's Duke, and then everyone else.
And what about Arizona State? Do you think they have the best guard tandem in the nation?
I would think they're pretty high on the list. I mean, they have 3 or 4 guards that are very good, and they have a down low presence that I don't normally remember them having. They're undefeated. They're probably going to lose this weekend, though. If they can go in and beat Arizona in Arizona, that's pretty impressive. But Arizona State. Look, if you didn't bet them by now, you've lost the value. They were very high weeks ago. They're down to below 10-1 at this point. So the value's gone with them. But no, if to answer your question, no, they have great guard play, and they're well coached. The concern I have with them is, they're kind of the new boy in town. No one really knows them. No one really is aware of them, but that can help them also. And they're in a conference that has had some growing pains. UCLA's had problems. USC's not the team we thought they were. Oregon has struggled in the non-conference. Arizona, had lost that 3 or 4 straight. So if they're going to win the conference, it's going to be this year. I like them a lot. I think they're a really, really good basketball team, and they've shown they can go and win anywhere, and even Kansas and places like that. The big test is going to come this weekend in McKale Center against Arizona.
All right, he's big man on campus. Follow him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. I saw him tweet out our show yesterday that we did. I definitely recommend watching that if you're looking to bet college basketball. Guys, let's get into college football. We got the Bowls coming up just at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. We got Southern Miss versus Florida State. Man, you talk about volatile. A lot of things can happen. That's in this game. We got a lot of guys in the live chat asking opinions on this. It's coming up in just a couple hours here. Looks like we got Southern Miss plus 14.5. We got a plus 15 at 5 dimes. I mean, this isn't, if Peter Loshak doesn't like 5 dimes, we can use 5 dimes lines here. If you're liking Southern Miss, you could go with plus 15, 49 the total. Anybody got an opinion on this? Ian, what are you looking for, Southern Miss, Florida State?
Well, I mean, you're talking about a situation where Southern Miss was, I think, 16 and a half. We've seen money come in here on Southern Miss down, at 14 and a half, 15 now across the board. And I remember seeing a stat where, you're looking at a pretty good long-term ATS track record of underdogs in that 16, 17 or more price range. And it hasn't happened very often, but they've been very, very profitable in bowl games. And for that reason, I lean Southern Miss. The problem is I don't know if this team offensively was as good this year. In fact, I know they weren't. I know the quarterback play certainly wasn't as good. They relied on Smith, the running back, quite a bit. And I've still got concerns about whether this team can move the ball effectively well enough against Florida State. But from an excitement and enthusiasm perspective alone, I got to lean in that direction with Southern Miss. I don't know what you're going to get from Florida State. We're talking about a Florida State team. What are they used to? They're used to contending for the college football playoff, contending for national championships, playing on New Year's 6, New Year's Day bowl games. This is not something that was on their list of goals coming into the season. Was suiting up here in the, the Walk-On Independence Bowl. Was that a goal for Florida State coming into the season? I don't think it was. So you just got to be a little bit concerned, especially laying this kind of number with a team where you don't know if their heads and hearts for that matter, completely fully invested in this football game. So I lean Southern Miss. I've got matchup concerns about them. That's what's keeping me in terms of having this just as a small opinion, but it's the only way I would bet it is to look to the dog in this game.
And Justin in the live chat was saying, Southern Miss can't tackle, might be onto something there. Also, their quarterback play hasn't necessarily been that good throughout the season. Big man, does that scare you in this matchup?
Of course. I mean, I think their quarterback play has been, a problem all year, but I still think they're capable at that position. You have to ask yourself a couple things. Why on earth would I bet Florida State at over 2 touchdowns? They're 3-8 as a favorite this year, okay? And those numbers were probably a lot smaller than the number they're laying here. And you look at the you look at the injury report here, and people that aren't playing in this game. Josh Sweat out, Derwin James out, Bavarius McFadden out. All those are high-level defensive players for Florida State. So now you have a defense that went from being really good to questionably good. You have a coach that's out. He's not going to be here. Obviously, he left. You have a team that really, like Ian said, how much do they really care about this game? They shouldn't really be in it to begin with. So you got to wonder, if they all know that. I mean, they're all well aware of that. And most of these kids on defense have quit on this team. They went to the draft. They have no interest. They're not going to be here. So people are giving up left and right. And you have a team with a backup quarterback that's had struggles all year putting points on a board. I don't care. And I'm not going to be, I'm not going to look at the last 3 games and get pumped up and excited and think that Florida State's going to hit a switch here because they beat Delaware State, UL Monroe, and Florida. For people that are relating UL Monroe to Southern Miss, stop talking about football. They're not connected at all. UL Monroe's a disastrous team. And Southern Miss can move the football. They have a very good defense. They have a defense that's rated in the top 40 in the country. They're well coached, and they have a guy in Ito Smith that's a very good player. They have some good receivers as well. You can relate it to one game yesterday because you feel like it because Northern Illinois didn't show up against Duke, but this is a big time different number. Southern Miss is 17th in the country in total defense. That's pretty impressive. I know they're in Conference USA, they're not in the ACC, but this is a lot of points to lay with a team that doesn't give a flying fuck about this game. Look at that on defense. There's no one playing for this group on defense.
After that comment by Big Man, there's no way he's sending Matt Vietor a Christmas card. No way, no how.
Yeah, their season over/under win total hit as far as the over on 3.5. So at the beginning of the season, they were a little underrated in Monroe. But hey,
I don't know that I could compare them to Southern Miss. You know what I'm saying?
Oh no, I agree totally. Yeah, no, when you look at 42-10, it's a different animal. Southern Miss can definitely, would be the higher rated team. But Donnie, do you have any opinion on Southern Miss, Florida State? I mean, motivation's a tricky thing to handicap. Or anything else catching your eye as far as bowls go in the next couple days?
Yeah, in this game right here, I mean, both the guys brought up great points in that one. When you're just looking to break down the analysis of a football game, the coaches left. I mean, we've seen how coaches left have affected their football teams already in the college bowl season. You're also looking at motivation here. Florida State is an NFL factory. Florida State gets hyped the same way Ian said. If you're going to the Fiesta Bowl, you're in the Final Four, you're playing for a national championship, they're going to get up and get ready. Those guys have already checked out. How much fun? I mean, I don't even want to say like fodder. You're right. Like just getting into the bowl season was amazing that FSU even made it, even though that long-ass bowl streak that they do have. But where's the motivation here? And again, we're not talking about 2.5. We're not talking about, hey, guys, let's go out and just win the football game because that's all you need to do. You're basically going to have to win this game by 17 or 3 touchdowns at this point. I think Southern Miss will be motivated. Is it the greatest game in the world? No. But to me, it's Southern Miss or nobody here for me as well.
Okay. And guys, what else is on your – Ian, you want to point out another game? What's Missouri, Texas? You liking anything there? Purdue, Arizona tonight in the night games?
Yeah, I know there's talk that Texas may have some guys out of the game, but as far as I'm concerned, I've got to see Missouri beat someone other than Arkansas, a horrendous Arkansas team and some of these other teams they've beaten in order to truly believe in what they've done down the stretch of the football season. Now they're going to go up against a really good Texas defense here tonight in this game. And we know Tom Herman in the underdog role has been fantastic. It's been something I've cashed in repeatedly with. Personally, I've given Texas as an underdog more than once in best bet segment here on the round table this season during the college football season. So I'm on Texas there, and you can get +3 now across the board. Can't tell me they're not a better defensive football team than Missouri. They absolutely are. It's a defensive dog. It's a coach in Tom Herman who's thrived in this role repeatedly as an underdog over the years as a head coach. Yeah, give me Texas here in this game. I know Drew Lock in that offense pretty darn good, but I think Texas has the they're not going to be scared by Drew Lock in Missouri. Not when you face Oklahoma and Baker Mayfield. Not when you face Oklahoma State and Mason Rudolph. They faced their share of good offenses and good quarterbacks. They're not going to be fazed by facing Drew Lock in Missouri. So give me Texas now that especially now you can get a full +3 with them. I think they can win that game outright.
And Ian, their defensive line, it can get after it. And what Drew Lock, he's not that athletic, right? I haven't seen a lot of Missouri games. So looking at their last couple games against West Virginia and Texas Tech, profile-wise, similar offenses, they held them both under, 30 points and another one under 20 points. You think that would carry over into this matchup?
Very potentially. I mean, we've got a situation here where, again, Missouri, to me, not as good on the defensive side of the football as Texas, not even close. Texas, to me, has faced some good offenses, great quarterbacks. I'm not convinced Missouri has. Remember, this is still a Missouri team that early in the season, they had some big-time points hung on them by, Purdue, for instance. That's just as one example. This Missouri defense, to me, don't trust them here in this match. I know Texas offensively was a little bit sputtering at times. That was not consistent whatsoever. They went back and forth. They had Sam Ehlinger at quarterback at times. They had Shane Buechele at quarterback at times. So again, that's definitely the weaker point of that Texas team, their offense. But to me, there's a massive discrepancy in the quality of defense here between these two football teams and a coach I like in bowl games. Tom Herman's bowl track record, by the way, is pretty darn good as well. Remember what he did with that Houston team? Went into the Peach Bowl and beat Florida State one year when he was there. So I like Herman to time to prepare in this bowl game. I'll trust him over Barry Odom from a coaches and X's and O's and preparation standpoint for sure. A lot of things pointing me toward Texas here tonight.
And Jeff, do you agree with Ian here? I mean, Missouri coming out of the SEC East, this record could be a little masked, man. It's easy to rack up wins there on the east side of the SEC. You agree with them?
I don't necessarily disagree with them. I think this is one of the tougher bowl games of the season. Really, I mean, you have a team in Missouri who was on fire towards the end of the season, won 6 straight games, put up 45 or more in every single game, but they've been off over a month. They lost their offensive coordinator, which we've talked actually last night. Gabe and I were talking about this game, and one of the listeners was mentioning that I guess he's from the Missouri area. He mentioned that the guy that's going to call plays today is called plays for some time, supposedly, and Heupel wasn't the guy calling plays. He was just kind of there. I don't know how true that is, but again, you lose him, and you wonder though. But then you look at Missouri and you say to yourself, what a season this would be if they could cap off a bowl win here. This team started out really struggling all year. You mentioned the ability of them to win late, but they were against subpar opponents. But I don't know that I trust Texas on offense. They have some people suspended as well. Listen, I've made this case, and I'm going to continue to make the case. The Big 12 is a fraud conference. It's not any good. There's no one in this conference that I worry about ever, any year. They're a fraud group of people. They're a fraud group of teams. I have no interest in ever backing them. But if I am going to back a Big 12 team, it's going to be Tom Herman as an underdog. The problem is there's question marks with that team as well, offensively, and who's actually playing for them. It's a fascinating bowl game, but one with not a ton of value, if you ask me.
Big 12 got it done last night, though. Go K-State, the Bill Snyders. Way to go. Nice second half there.
Donnie, anything on Missouri, Texas, or in the next couple days bowl games, even up to the playoffs?
This Missouri Texas game. The interesting thing about it, I didn't spend too much time, but as I'm looking, I like to look towards overs, obviously in the bowl games, because a little bit more lax out there. Am I missing something where the over is only 60.5, 61 with Missouri? Jeff brings up a good point. I mean, that offense, you say what you want, they're still going to have the same play calling scheme out there with the same quarterback running the system. Does that look like a low number? Is Texas game plan going to be to just slow it down? Missouri, to me, just automatically means over unless we're looking at 71 or 72. Am I missing something, Jeff, with that 60 or 60 and a half here?
I think the problem with that, I do agree with you, but Texas has struggled on offense. I mean, that's kind of the issue here. I mean, this team only, on the road, 23 points a game. And I know people will point to the fact it's a home game, but I don't know. I don't know if anyone's watched some of these bowl games, but no one goes to them. I mean, it was a home game for SMU too, and they got trounced. I agree though. I think the over is a little light here. Missouri's a team; they're going to throw a ton. They just don't run the ball that much, really. The problem you have with Texas, they've been an under trender for most of the year, and I don't know that I trust them offensively. They're not that same. I think a lot of us remember last year with Shane Buechele against Notre Dame, how they just went up and down the field. It's a stark contrast to what they once were. They're kind of like what Houston was. They want to run the ball with Tom Herman when he was there, play some defense, turn the football over. But Texas is 9-3 to the under this year. Might be sneaky good. But when I hear you, I agree, Donnie. Missouri usually translate to overs. But that's in the AAC against teams that run the same way they do. Texas is going to run a little bit different.
And Missouri's a rhythm offense. They're a real rhythm offense. This is now a little bit of a long break from their last game to tonight. November 24th at Arkansas to December 27th. That's a long layoff for a team that really relies on having that rhythm on offense.
Donnie, what about the playoffs, man? Georgia, Oklahoma, Alabama, Clemson. Looked like Alabama took some money. Georgia now the favorite here. Could you see an all SEC national title, or what are you looking to happen in the playoff scenario, Donnie?
Yeah, the hard thing with Oklahoma is when you just look right off, you want the SEC defense, right? Georgia's going to come to play. Georgia does everything that Oklahoma doesn't want. They're going to, not up-tempo, but they're going to slow it down and pound you with two really good running backs. And we've all seen what the Big 12 brings to the table on defense in this one. The only wild card, obviously, is Baker Mayfield. It doesn't seem like defense affects him much. He's going to sling it all over the field. And if his defense can hold up a little bit, they're going to be shooting it out. That game I don't have much of a feel for. But the other game I'm really looking at, I get if you want to take Alabama in this game. Alabama's -3. We all know Nick Saban, give him a couple weeks to get ready for a game. He's going to peg it. But there's something about Clemson to me that just says, dude, bro, We've been here and done this in so many big game environments over the last 3 years. You're going to tell me you're going to give the defending champion Clemson, who to me, actually, I think Clemson has the more talent on both offense and defense on both sides of the football right now, with Alabama being a little bit banged up. Give me the 3 points in the national title game. I think Clemson's going to win the national title again. I think they're going to beat Bama here, despite how hard it is to put your money down against Nick Saban when he has a couple weeks to prepare for you.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Going against Nick Saban with extra time, the market's disagreeing.
Hard to do.
What about what about you, Ian? Do you agree with Donnie, or are you agreeing with where the money's coming in on this game?
I'm leaning Georgia in the first game just because I trust that defense a lot more. I really do. I know Baker Mayfield, great season, Heisman Trophy winner, but Heisman Trophy winner does not automatically mean a national champion. We've seen that play out time and time again. I've got concerns about Oklahoma's ability to move against this caliber of defense. No question about that. Don't love the Georgia side, but I'm leaning that way as long as it's below a field goal. I do really like Clemson +3 in that other semifinal game. Look, Clemson has not been quaking in their boots in any of the last 2 meetings head-to-head against Alabama in the national championship games. They've been on par. You look at this Clemson team defensively, they've been absolutely outstanding. Their track record in bowl games has not just been good, it has been phenomenal in recent years under Dabo Swinney. I can get +3 now. This Alabama mystique to me still, this Alabama team not quite up to where they've been the last couple of years, as far as I'm concerned. Clemson to me, as now that you can get a full field goal in a game that probably is going to be close, with a team that's not going to be in awe of this Alabama team whatsoever. Yeah, absolutely. Clemson to me is the side that I like most of all in those 2 semifinals next Monday.
All right, man. And a lot of big man's opinions are on the bowl show that comes up at noon. It's pretty much every day over the Christmas break, so you can get a lot of his opinions there. Anything you want to throw out real quick, big man, as far as betting the bowls go?
Yeah, Oklahoma, 57th in total defense. Every other team, 2, 4, and 6. That's why Oklahoma won't win anything. Baker Mayfield is going to get mangled by Georgia's defense. Mangled. He's not seen a defense like this. I can't wait for Baker Mayfield to fail at the next level. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it every fucking year. These fake Big 12 quarterbacks. We talked about it last night. The failure of this league. I mean, they put no one in the NFL. No one. You know what the best player to come out of the Big 12 right now in the NFL? You know who it is? Dez Bryant. There's not one quarterback in the NFL worthy. It's a shitty league. I wish they'd just go away. I hate this league. And I can't wait to watch this team fail against Georgia in the title game or in the semifinal game. I can't wait.
And it's funny, you bring up Dez Bryant, and he sucks right now. He can't gain separation from anybody.
That's my point.
He couldn't separate from me on the football field. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my point.
Who would think the 2 best players in the NFL are coming from Kansas with Aqib Talib and the other cornerback on the opposite side is Chris. His name's slipping the bell, but those 2, yeah, exactly. Yeah, Chris Harris, unbelievable. Kansas putting better players in the pros.
It's amazing.
And his hands
it's just a bad league.
And his hands have turned into butterfingers, Dez Bryant, too. There you go. He's falling apart all over the place now.
Hey, big man Donnie or Ian, we had a couple guys asking about the BC game today. Donnie or Ian, you got anything on this game?
It's going to be cold.
I don't have much on it, but
real cold.
I mean,
real cold in the Bronx. And I lean BC because I actually do think BC is slightly more equipped. I don't trust Iowa, really, to be honest with you. Laying points in the favorites role. They're a methodical, grinded-out type of football team. But I was impressed with the job Boston College did, particularly down the stretch. They played good football after a rough stretch. So, again, I don't love the game because I could see it. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be tight. I certainly, Iowa's one of those teams that can grind away, and it's not a vintage BC defense. But I just think I've got a little bit more of a capable, explosive offense that can – I trust BC's offense to make a play for me more than I trust Iowa's. So I lean BC, but it's not a game I got involved with.
All right,
yeah,
guys.
Well, I actually would lean opposite on that. Go Iowa there, just for the fact that BC is going to sit out their first-round talent defensive end. So you're already on that. Not as much talent in these lower bowl games there, and you're already going to take probably your best player off the defense. I'll lean Iowa just on that premise alone.
All right, guys. Great breakdown of college football here. We got over 250 people watching. Thanks, guys. The over on the likes did hit. We're at 110 right now. The dislikes right at 3, so it's still in question. But yeah, please give us the like button. It helps us out a lot. Donnie Rightside, find him on Twitter at RightSideVP. We got at Jeff Nadeau, at Babano around the horn here. Guys, we got best bets coming up for the week. I believe we went 2-1-1 last week. So Ian Cameron, you want to start us off with your best bet for the roundtable this week?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the NFL for Sunday, and I'm going to go back to one of the games I mentioned that I'll be looking at. Green Bay +7. I think it's a situation where we got the Green Bay Packers that have, you look at the score on paper against Minnesota, it looks like they were terrible, but the defense still gave you a little bit something. You got a situation where you're facing an elite Minnesota defense. I don't hold that completely against Brett Hundley and looking completely overwhelmed and downright scared at times, to be honest, going up against that Minnesota defense. This ain't the Minnesota defense this week. This is the Detroit Lions. You can move the ball on them. Cincinnati proved that last week with Andy Dalton. The Lions now out of the playoffs. I don't buy this crap about let's win one more going out for Jim Caldwell. If they like Jim Caldwell a lot more, we would have seen a great effort last week and find a way to make a play in the fourth quarter against Cincinnati to keep our playoff hopes alive. We didn't see that. Okay, that's how you show Jim Caldwell you respect the man. Make a damn play in the fourth quarter. They didn't do that last week against the Cincinnati Bengals. I think it's too many points. I don't trust Detroit's effort level. I don't trust their focus for this game at home against Green Bay. I'm now a meaningless season finale. And you look at the Packers. Look what they did against Pittsburgh earlier this season on the road with Brett Hundley. Moved the ball, hung in the game, right down to the wire. I had a chance to win it. I think they're right in this game start to finish. Let's go Green Bay +7 on the NFL board for Week 17 on Sunday. That'll be my best bet.
All right, and shout out to Ergo on the live chat here saying sharps are on the dislikes under. It's still the under's still hitting. Also, we got sports betting and poker saying where does Papano come from? You're in Canada right now, right, Ian?
What's Bobano? What's that come from? That's a long story. It's too long to discuss here on the round table, to be honest with you. I'd need like 10 minutes to make that story make sense.
All right, we'll save it for another time.
Don't Google the name and think that's where it came from, because the Babano Google search will not dispose of why his name is Babano.
That's right. You're wasting your time. I agree, Jeff. Heed his advice.
All right, and he's big man on campus. Find him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. We got somebody asking any NBA plays from Talit. Any NBA plays, Jeff? And if not, what's your best bet, man?
Well, I will have some NBA plays, but they're going to be later. I've mentioned before, I only bet numbers in the NBA. I don't care much about what the teams or the lines. I just want to, at the end of the day, I'm going to look at about half hour before I'll make my wager at that point. But yes, I will have an NBA play. Killing the NBA right now. I'm going to go to soccer. I've hit 3 in a row with soccer here on the round table. I'm going to go with a totals play here. You can get this total anywhere. You can get actually plus money on it. I'm going to go over 3.5 in Newcastle, Manchester City. It's in the Premier League today. Only game on the board. Little matinee midweek Wednesday football here. Look, Newcastle can't keep goals out. It's been a problem for this group all year. And look, Manchester City, if you know anything about soccer, they're probably the best team in the world. They haven't lost a game yet in the Premier League. All of their road games, other than one, have seen more than 3 goals. They're a goal-scoring machine. I wouldn't be surprised to see them hit this themselves. They could score 4 goals easily here. I do think Newcastle can grab one. So, as long as they can get on the board, I think this one will easily go over the total. It's a little high for soccer, but City scores goals like we eat meals. I mean, they score a ton. I'm going to go over 3.5. I'm going to actually get plus 113 at 5 dimes. I think this is a 4-1 type of game here. I could see 4-0. It's going to be a blowout. I see plenty of goals from City today.
All right, so that's Newcastle over 3.5, right, BMOC?
Yep, Newcastle and Manchester City over 3.5. Yep.
All right, and shout out to Big Man on Campus. He mentioned he's on a 3-0 run, and one of those winners, I believe, was a plus 300 ticket. So you're up over 5 units, right, Big Man?
Yeah, there were none of those today, which, they're not a great soccer card. They just won game. But yes, yeah, I did hit that. That was a great one a couple weeks.
Yeah. No, that was awesome, man. We appreciate it. And so over 3.5 on Newcastle. Donnie Rightside, find him on Twitter at RightSideVP. Donnie, what do you got for best bets, man?
Yeah, let's go right to 331, 332 in the NFL, 4:25 p.m. this Sunday. We're going to lean on the same guy we've been saying for, maybe the last 5 to 6 weeks here on the roundtable. That's Jimmy Garoppolo in a situation where San Francisco's playing really good football. They're in one of those build modes, so every win they get, it's a little bit of a feel-good win heading into the offseason. I think they're going to win this game outright versus the Rams. What if I told you heading into this football game that you're going to get a hot 49ers team, getting maybe, it's down, it's actually a pick 'em right now at Pinnacle, so I'll just sit it right on the money line as this as well. If I told you no Aaron Donald in this game, no Todd Gurley, no Jared Goff, and maybe a couple other guys would sit out in this football game, it seems like free money, which again, they're still going to have to play. They're still going to have to win. It's still, yes, folks, the 49ers out there. But there's nothing to be gained basically from the Rams out here. They're going to be playing the next week. They don't have a bye week. Todd Gurley is the engine on that offense. The conductor is Jared Goff. Both of those, if they do play, are going to play maybe a series or two and get out of Dodge and rest up for the playoffs here. No motivation for the Rams in the situation. Rams don't have a great home field advantage as is anyway. It's going to be sunny in Southern California. Give me Jimmy Garoppolo outright in this football game. If you got 4, 3, 2, or 1, I don't think it's going to matter. As long as you're not laying points in this game, take the San Francisco 49ers. They're going to win this one outright, folks.
Totally agree.
Right,
I
so
love the 49ers. Yep. Been on them 4 straight weeks. I'm going for a 5th straight week. Let's do it. Jimmy G train. Here we come.
By the way, I did just buy a Jimmy Garoppolo jersey. I got a rep for the Paisan down there.
How about that?
Yes, I'm all over Jimmy G. I love the kid. I can't wait for this guy to take the NFL by storm and say, fuck off, New England. I can't wait for Tom Brady and Bill Belichick to retire, and these fucking Patriot fans got to go back to root for nobodies. We'll see how many of them are big-time Patriot fans after this. Jimmy G is the future. San Francisco is the future. Look out for the Niners next year. Can't wait. Give me Jimmy G on the back.
So Jimmy G, and what can we give you that at, Donnie? Plus 2.5?
No, go
plus
right,
threes?
go money line. Yep, exactly. Just go money line, pick them. Just put it at pick them right there. As long as they win the football game, I'll take those odds. Because I don't know where it's going to end up and when people are actually going to watch and see. But Pinnacle's already at a pick 'em in this, so I'll take the worst number on the board. Just give me the game at a pick 'em.
I'll be honest. I think San Francisco's favored by a field goal by kickoff. I really believe that. This is a huge momentum swell of Niners money right now, and it's going as we speak.
All right, so we got Donnie Rightside on San Francisco, I guess money line. We got BMOC over 3.5 in Newcastle, and Ian Cameron on Green Bay plus 7. I'm going to take Southern Miss starting right now, or starting very soon at plus 14.5. That 15 at 5 dimes is gone, so got to take 14 in the hook with Southern Miss. Motivation, obviously, the play here. But guys, anything else before we close out the roundtable?
That's
All right,
about
let's
it.
do it.
Yeah.
That's it, man.
Yeah, no, great stuff. Great show. We
Check out
appreciate
the bowl
everybody
stuff.
watching.
Bowl stuff at 12
Yeah.
o'clock. Me and Drew and Peter Loshek. Check that out.
Yeah, we got the bowl stuff at 12 o'clock. Donnie, what do you got on SBR? What times are your shows on this week?
Me and the big man be back again tomorrow, 10 a.m. for Thursday and Friday. Coming back. Also, keep an eye on Big Man. I know not many shows are going to be going live on New Year's Day, but me and the big man are going to come on in the morning, talk a little bit about the big games on New Year's Day and have some fun. So be on the lookout for that. Still digging in on some stuff. I know the judge thing goes over very well. We might have to get in the courtroom for a couple of these football games this weekend and really put some W's together, but I'll be around. Just check it out.
I got to
right,
give
good
a plug
stuff.
to Building the
Ian,
Case, by the way.
real quick.
Donnie's videos, Building the Case, they deserve a little mention. They're fantastic. It's hilarious.
Give me an Emmy,
I'm killing
damn it.
myself laughing. Give him an Emmy. He's doing a great job. He's just so professional as a judge, but it's funny at the same time. And hey, as last I checked, he had a 2-0 sweep with his last 2
Yeah, that was
NFL
nice,
Building
man.
the Case
Yeah,
videos. So
how
there
about
you go. He's filling your pockets too and filling your laughter box as well. So it's great. Great
Thank
videos. Yeah, I'm on Thursday, Saturday, NHL Ice Guys this week, and Gabe tonight, the late night anger management. So lots going on. Looking forward to it.
All right, great stuff, guys. Thanks everybody in the live chat. Thanks for the likes. For Donnie, Jeff, and Ian, I'm Drew. We'll be back next Wednesday, same time, same place.
Thank you.